Crope, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Do I need to be louder?
Not at this hour, please.
All right, give me a moment here. Put the agenda in the chat. Please add any opens you might have and mark your attendance. My name. Give me just 1 minute to find a meeting on one of the 1,000 tabs I have open. It's 12 p.m. All right. Thank you everyone for your patience while I was doing a little bookkeeping. I'll get the agenda set so we have the subgroup calls at the top in case anyone loses track of them. I just haven't had the opportunity to collect everybody's assorted meeting docs. So welcome to the September 7th call of the Education SIG. Do we have any new friends today? Doesn't appear that way. Can I get a volunteer to assist in taking notes, or several volunteers? Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. Please put any opens you might have down below. We'll get to those in a second. I wanted to remind everybody that this group, starting today, is going to be on alternating weeks. So our next call will be September 21st. And we will be having the subgroup calls. Some of us will be in Ireland next week, but we won't have a full SIG call, obviously. But if anyone wanted to have a focus meeting, that would be fine. Just make sure if you have any trouble with the recording, reach out to David Wheeler or Jory Burson. I'll give their contacts. I'll put them here in the agenda. Randall.
Is the OpenSSF calendar going to be updated as well?
It is. You could go there right now and look at the exciting meetings available. The possibilities are endless for meetings. And actually, I may ask Glenn, did you want to start at the top of the hour or the middle of the hour?
That's a good question because actually I sent out a new doodle.
Oh, yes.
So maybe I should review that and let you know because probably it will be a whole different time. So that's good to mention it.
Yes. So Glenn's meeting, which would be next Thursday, may be moving. So stay tuned. I will get the calendar updated as soon as we make that determination. Dave's meeting's not moving.
For clarification, the meetings that are going to be canceled the week of OSSF week are not going to be removed from the calendars.
They will not be removed. If you are
Right.
not going to have the call, send a note to the mailing list. If you have the call, great. Send a note to the mailing list. Depends on how eager beavers everyone are to get the plan rolling. All right. And so I'll leave a note for myself. All right. I would like to, since we are now, we've moved off the meat of the work to the sub-team calls. I'd like to spend a little time shoring up our Git repo to make sure we have a mission and vision that reflects what we would like to achieve. And I would like to fill in some of the missing parts. For example, the governance section on this page, I'll take care of now that PR 112 from the TAC is done. I will new time, SIG to 2 p.m. Brussels, same day.
Thursdays, yeah, that was the best fit for everybody apparently.
Is that CET, Central Europe?
To what do I need to convert it?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
It's CET. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do the conversion. I'll take care of it.
Oh,
okay.
and Glenn, just quickly, is that the hour before this one?
It is on a Thursday, so that's indeed an
Right.
hour before.
Okay,
Yeah, this
got
one as
it.
well.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that note out to Jory today. So hopefully that'll be updated today or tomorrow in the calendar. So I will pull up my screen. Boop. Screen that. Can everybody see my screen? Is it
Yes.
large enough? Can people read my screen?
No.
Using the power. Oops, wrong window there. How's that?
Magic.
Excellent. So I would like to review the README MD and make sure, again, we have some type of mission or vision stated that reflects what we're trying to achieve. I'd like to fill in some of the blanks, like what's in and out of scope here. So to start, kind of the preamble, this education SIG is a group working with the best practices working group to form to advance and deliver upon the mobilization plan stream 1. The SIG is dedicated to providing industry standard secure software development training materials that will educate learners of all levels and backgrounds on how to create, compose, deploy, maintain software securely using best practices in cyber and application security. So is the team okay with that statement? Does that feel like a mission or a vision that we would like to fulfill? I got the thumbs up from Dave.
I think it is certainly factually correct, but it didn't really flow well. So perhaps at some point, certainly not now, it's not big deal. And I'm not going to be able to wordsmith and have people in my head. But at some point, I think some wordsmithing could be good to make it even easier for people to digest what's going on. Just take it down a level, perhaps.
You all should have permissions to be able to submit PRs. So if someone had suggested wording, we absolutely would be glad to take that as part of the PR process to do a review there. The motivation was borrowed straight from the mobilization plan. So are we okay echoing that? Right now it says historically, little attention is paid in traditional software engineering coursework that highlights and teaches the importance of good cybersecurity hygiene and secure coding techniques. Complicating the lack of trained developers is the ever-growing shortage of trained cybersecurity professionals that can assist developers as they create, test, and release their software. So for a motivation, are we okay open sourcing that from the plan, or do we want to make any adjustments?
Well, maybe this also ties a bit to the first part, but you know, there are of course materials out there, right? I can name a couple of vendors who will charge you an arm and a leg for access to materials. But yeah, so isn't it also the motivation to make it freely available? I mean, it should make sense. We are OpenSSF, but yeah, maybe we should reflect it as well in the motivation and in the first part, that it's without any payment walls or whatever. You have free knowledge, right? That is of a certain standard, like we mentioned in the other text. But yeah, that's free and accessible for everyone.
I agree. That does seem to be missing. Would we put that under motivation, or would that be part of our kind of mission statement? Where do you think that'd be appropriate to put?
I think I think it should be part of the objective.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, David, I jumped the line.
Oh, that's
I'm
okay.
so bad.
Finish your thought. Finish your thought.
Oh, yeah, because this is something that we are aiming to do, is to make sure that the resources are freely and openly available. I think that should become an objective that we can keep returning to. Is this a part of our objective, sort of thing? I'm sorry, David, I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
I don't think that at all.
We're all friends here.
You don't, but I did.
Oh, anyway. Yeah, this is a nit on motivation. Instead of secure coding, can we say secure software development?
It's open source, David. We can make it say whatever you want.
I see. Coding for some people means the typing in of text, and that's not what we mean at all. There's design and verification and all those other things.
Yeah, totally. The entire package deal, because there's a lot more to software development than just programming. Great catch. Yay, David.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm summarizing a little bit what Glenn and Vicky were talking through. Would a objective be provide access to educational materials at no or low cost to all learners?
Just a question. So why low cost? Because you consider the examination or certification also as a cost factor. Maybe we should then split it up, because the material and the training is actually free, right? But yeah, the certification, people have to look at it, really, review assessments maybe. So it is, I think, more understandable that is, I would say, the low cost part. And
That's
I didn't
fair.
put my hand up, so sorry for that.
Eric.
Yeah, so on the no cost, I think it kind of depends on who the learners are, right? So from this perspective, we've talked a lot about underrepresented groups. We've talked about, the potential of taking it as low as like high school level versus college versus other, in some of the underrepresented groups or areas where budgets may be less, like groups like Girls Who Code and things like that may not have budgets, where they can afford this. So is it a conversation around that's no cost based on need? And we also talked about, that somebody's paying for it, like grants and other things, but how do you differentiate that? Is there a scenario where it's, so many of the certifications in a given period of time for some of these groups that, really are underrepresented or have lower budgets, or, purely from learning perspective versus established professionals? Some of those things need to factor in, I would think. So topic for discussion there.
Good points. Vicky?
We need to remove the concept of price and cost immediately from this objective. It is not the point. The point is to make the educational materials openly and freely available. Whether someone then chooses after that to charge for them is different, right? Whether they charge for certifications is different. But the materials themselves should be freely and openly available for people to use, modify, redistribute. We've got the 4 freedoms there. They apply to more than code.
Does my edit reflect that perspective?
I don't know, because I can't read and talk at the same time.
Could I
Need more
offer an
screens.
alternative to what you deleted?
Of course. Absolutely.
What about accessible to all learners?
Yeah.
Makes sense, because freely makes it sound again like there could be a cost connotation.
Because I
Well,
think
that-
accessible is the technical term when you're, talking about making it like open availability. And that could also mean that it could cost something, but maybe there's like some companies have student discounts or different things.
The entire philosophy and the problems with the word free in the English language and its relationship to the free and open source movement, that goes back decades and decades, and it's not something we're going to litigate and fix today. But it is something that is also well known and well understood. And so I do think it's something we should consider keeping in there openly and freely. And I like the idea of including accessibility, but you say accessibility to me, and I'm thinking it's available for people who have different mental and physical abilities than others. Sight, hearing.
That's a whole other
Things like that.
can of worms we haven't touched yet.
Exactly. But I do
Yeah,
think it's worth making sure that we mention and include, because it is very important. It is part of making sure that everyone has access to this.
I would say that's accessibility. What I said was accessible. I think there's a difference.
Oh, we're gonna be splitting some hairs here.
I'm just saying. Because I'm a web
Oh, totally.
developer.
Totally. I get it. I get it. But I think that's something we should definitely be looking into. The general concepts, I think, is a good one. So very grateful you brought it up. I have my hand up. Oh, shut up. There we go. There we go. Low mic.
So how do you feel about the proposal now if I remove the parens under that are highlighted right now? David, you had a statement question?
Yeah, 2 different things. If you first freely, I mean, you can. If what you mean is no cost, why don't you just say no cost? If you mean by openly as in open data, you can say that. You can say both of those. I think you probably mean both of those. Accessible versus accessibility. Probably need another word, because when somebody says accessibility, I assume we are talking about blind, deaf, etc. Now, I actually do think we should strive to make our resources accessible in that sense. There is a danger that, for example, hey, I make a video. Wait a minute, not everybody can see. Well, yes. On the other hand, saying I can't make videos is not helpful for the vast number of people who have vision. So I think we probably need to say something more complicated than everything must be completely maximally available would be good, or at least a start. But I think that's probably under objectives. By the way, the materials should be maximally accessible. It should be accessible to the extent we can do that. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll pull my hand down before I get an old hand.
Randall, is your hand still up?
No, it's not.
Okay, then you're next. Otherwise, I was going to jump the line. Oh, it's down. I think that a lot of these are details that should be discussed and should be covered in this document somewhere. But mentioning them here in the objective and then clarifying them further down, and or more, probably better, linking to clarifications in additional documents once we have them. I think that's going to be the way to go. Because otherwise we could be iterating on this line all morning. And it's not that I don't love seeing you all, it's just that I have to drop early for another call.
So is the group directionally okay with our objective to provide access to educational materials openly and freely available to all learners? Are we okay with that for today? And then we always can take PRs and talk through additional bits later. I got a thumbs up and a nod, a thumbs up. I'm going to drop the Lee. Open and freely available. All right. Do we want to have some type of statement under the objectives that the materials should be maximally available to all different types and styles of learner?
Learner, comma, and should be, wait a minute, types and styles of learner make me think this is not accessibility.
Okay.
How
would we like to phrase that?
Yeah, maximally accessible, comma, and available to all and usable by all. Wordsmithing. That's hard.
Or we can just completely knack the end of the sentence.
Okay. Oh, and Jacob has a tweak on the other one.
Consumable. Access to open and freely available to all learners.
Yeah, sorry, as I was reading it, it just seemed like the open and freely should come before to define the education materials. It seems kind of out of place following it. Without some kind of comma or punctuation there.
All learners, okay.
So how do we feel about Jacob's suggestion to flip-flop in the order? We okay with that?
Are we talking no cost?
I don't know. Are we talking about no cost?
If we mean no cost, I would say no cost instead of freely, because that ambiguity that Vicky mentioned. I'm not actually necessarily opposed in all cases to require payments, but it sure does make it a whole lot easier to get people to use it. Widely available.
What do we think about that? Then we'll talk about materials and then we'll move on.
Okay.
All right, any objections or suggestions right now to the two lines we've just sussed out?
We're being a little repetitive there.
Okay,
If that's not a problem, it's not a problem, but we are saying the same thing in two different lines.
Which lines are we talking about?
11 and 12.
Maybe it's a
11,
really, really
11 says
important
open
thing.
data, 12 says available to those with disabilities. Why are they the same?
First one says we're going to provide access to materials to all learners, and the second one saying the materials should be accessible and easy consumed for all learners. If
No, the
if
first one
we're in
says
agreement-
available. No, the
if we're-
first one says available. The second one says accessible. Accessible is
If-
not at all the same thing.
it's not a hill I'm going to die on. I just wanted to bring it up. If everyone's cool with it, let's move on.
I think it will cause confusion in the future, but for now, I think it's a great start. We can iterate later.
Yeah, if that's confusing, then we probably ought to link to a definition. What is the usual legislative definition here? Disability rights. Why don't we go on ahead? I'm going to do a little Google search and see if I can tweak that, because if it looks the same to somebody, that's probably going to look the same to somebody else, and I don't think they're supposed to be the same.
All right, let's talk about scope. Under the objective, we talk a little bit about what is in scope. Do we want to be more precise and state we will deliver education classes at multiple levels to different constituents? Do we want to say we'll provide scholarships and other means of access to underserved communities? Do we want to talk about things that we will not be doing? What would be easier for us to formulate? I saw Dave's hand for his physical hand first, because his fingers slower than Glenn's.
Would it make sense to refer to the individual section plans as far as what is in scope, what is out of scope, instead of trying to redefine it here?
That would be what is in scope. So we definitely could have some type of language and then point to the plan here to talk about what is in scope. Glenn?
Yeah, I was indeed, if I would come on a reading page, I want to know, okay, is this applicable for me? So maybe it's about the materials and the scope of the content that we're actually covering. And if that's in your interest, then you can see, okay, does it have something for my type of learner, right? And then you can deep dive. But I think here it's just first like, hey, this is what we offer actually in terms of content and stuff we cover. Probably when you do that, it also makes already pretty clear, I would say, what is out of scope. I think. Unfortunately, yeah, I wasn't really part of the whole scope discussion actually. because I was on holiday and sick. So sorry to say this, but what is actually our scope? I mean, I've seen from our part training and education, I've seen some languages, some frameworks, all that good stuff. But is that final? Is there more thoughts behind it? Because we also just mentioned, hey, it's not only about secure coding, it's about secure software development, right? So it's the whole process. So yeah, sorry to say, but I'm challenging a bit here, maybe the overall scope. Yeah, I'm not sure if that was the idea. I'm sorry for that, but maybe who has a good view on it, could maybe summarize it a little short for me.
So what is in scope? I'll let Judy talk while I think about a response to Glenn's what is in scope statement.
Hi, everybody. How are you today? As I furiously type in the chat, great to see your faces. I'm actually just copied and pasted, just reading the actual immobilization plan PDF, and that's the expressly out of scope in it. So to me, that makes sense what's out of scope.
Yeah, I want to push back on that first one. I'll note that, for example, the existing course, I'm pretty sure we use vulnerabilities of closed source software as some example, things like, the SolarWinds build subversion. At least as examples, I think they're absolutely fair because we should learn from everything we can. And what's more, a lot of the stuff that we're teaching, I'm expecting it to work regardless of whether it's open source or proprietary or closed source. I mean, it's software. If we're talking about development or deployment, there's a lot of similarities, and I don't think we need that first point.
How does the group feel about talking about vulnerabilities in closed and proprietary software? Got a thumbs up.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Nod. Another thumbs up. All right. Are we okay with the second statement of what is out of scope? Security improvements to open source software. We're not basically, we don't want to be a vulnerability pipeline system. Vicky?
I'm still trying to parse that one.
Yeah, I think it's that we are not the ones who are going to be creating the patches. Am I correct?
We're not the ones that are going to create patches. We're not the ones to report vulnerabilities to.
Yeah, okay. I would prefer this be rephrased to say pretty much exactly that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Because when a number of us are going, hold on, wait, what does this mean?
Yeah,
There's definitely room for
out of scope. Reporting unknown vulnerabilities.
Guys,
Oh,
I'm gonna have to apologize. I copied and pasted that from Stream 5. I
Yeah.
put my hand up here.
oh.
On this one. When I just put in a Control F and found out of scope, I presumed it was for the whole lot. Nope, this is me. I'm after leading you down a rabbit hole of, and there's a fox at the end of it. So I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay. Foxes are cute.
Ignore me. I'm going back to my sick bed.
Oh no, I'm so
Weird.
sorry. I hope you feel better.
What a day. My apologies.
That's okay. You know what? Maybe I think it's inspiring some discussions about what's out of scope.
Dave, you're so kind.
So this is not for reporting of unknown vulnerabilities in open source projects.
There we go.
Better?
Yeah.
Glenn, did you have a question or statement?
Well, for me, I mean, they're all like I would say correct statements, but it's a bit for me. Yeah, I could also say here, I don't know, what we're not going to do is teach people how to cook. I mean, it's really in correlation of what is in scope that might arise some doubt. Oh, but do you do this or do you do that? No, that is out of scope. And I think, well, when we're talking about education and training, yeah, reporting of unknown security vulnerabilities in open source projects, for me, at least for me, it's already pretty clear if your focus area is security, training, and education, right? So I find it very hard to fill in here, yeah, good statements that are out of scope that relate to what is in scope. So that's my first question was, what is the in scope thing?
You know what, I think this kind of section is helpful when there is some debate and we decide that we expressly aren't going to cover something, Glenn. But you're right. I mean, the list of things that aren't in scope is essentially is infinite. So we probably ought to only list the things that we might accidentally drill into, and we as a group decided that we're not going to do that.
Yes, because for example, when I was thinking about scope, okay, so well, most of the things nowadays are being built in APIs, web applications. Those are the front things, right? But of course, you can also talk about desktop applications, mobile applications, mainframe. I mean, so there I would say, hey, that's a good scope. What is in scope, what not? And then we can say, well, we're not going to teach you how to write secure code or software development in COBOL and IBM, or maybe we do. But I mean, that is a bit for me the first question, like what was actually in scope? Do we also do mobile? Do we also do desktop type of applications? Is it only focused purely on web type of stuff? And maybe I missed it because, yeah, sorry again, I was not able to attend in the.
We've never explicitly talked about any of these topics, which is why I want to focus now that we have work streams to focus on the plan to get the plan moving. I would now like to talk about the administrivia of this. So I would like this webpage to be open and inviting for new participants or people that want to learn about our efforts. So this is all excellent debate and comments. I mean, we need to go through this because somebody externally or somebody new to the group, I would like to point them to the README, and it should be completely, when they're done reading it, they should know, where to go and what we're all about.
Check. Yeah, I was afraid I missed that scope carving already.
No, we've never had it.
Okay.
First day, you're in on the ground floor.
Yay, good.
So what do we think about what is in scope, training and education around secure software development, management, and deployment?
Well, I would say like web development, right? Like web application development.
Would you change what's in there or add that in? Because not everything is going to be a web app potentially.
Correct. So I think we should make at least a small sub list under it, I would say, defining which areas we do cover training and education for secure software development. And I think, well, web application development, that is what lives on the edge, most risk. So I think because we can't cover it all, I guess, right?
I suspect the list is going to get rather long. Because it will include things such as data, embedded, just all sorts of things like that. I don't think we need to specify, not right here. It's software development, management, and deployment. The only thing I would potentially say is some sort of statement about including data, for instance.
Like data access controls or?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Just to make sure we've got that covered in some way. It could be that belongs elsewhere. But I think if we are start listing out all the different areas of software development in this scope statement here, we're going to get back down that rabbit hole that
And
our
somebody's
friends
going to come
let us down.
along saying, "Oh, you didn't mention Internet of Things."
Exactly. You'll
That's
get
okay.
rules lawyered.
But that's okay, right? I mean, the first iteration is, I would say, what adds the most value and what is most at risk. Yeah, I would take that approach, and indeed, like IoT could be a good one. That's very specialized, very niche, and not many developers, I would say, building these type of insecure things. Similar, you could say, for desktop applications or mobile. But again, it's very niche. There are not that many. So as an MVP to start and launch this whole initiative, I mean, if in the future somebody would come, yeah, we really need IoT as well. Well, we start up a new stream. We have a sort of platform, right, where we can put all the materials in and we can keep appending to it. But you know, in the end, we also need to create like labs and hands-on things. So yeah, we need to be a bit more specific, right? Because there's things also to be built and created to also teach the practical part of all the content and the education that we give.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said, every single word of it. I just don't believe it belongs in this particular scope statement. Perhaps instead to see our current priorities and roadmap, visit this link here, sort of thing. Because that is something that can evolve as time goes on, whereas our scope should remain relatively static. And so I do think it's something that we should absolutely define. Everything you said, huge +1. But we can define it in a different document or a different part of this document.
Judy.
Oh, it's me. I promise I won't bring down a rabbit hole. I was just wondering to keep it more high level, like around SEL training, and just those topics include, I mean, all of that was mentioned, because once you start mentioning one, you're going to miss one. When SEL, I would presume, covers everything. Those.
So before I move to David, can I get a thumbs up or thumbs down on removing a bulleted list of specific things we're going to do training on and find a different place in the document to move those? 1, 2, 3. Okay. But I don't know, in the scope, Jacob, we're not going to be able to provide an exhaustive list of every type of development we're going to be covering. And in the future, that might change.
Yeah, I would suggest we need to identify specific tasks to do, but that list doesn't go here. That's the, hey, we decide to do X, and we don't need to rewrite a charter just to create something else.
Yes.
The danger of making a list here, so I'm just going to speak up since it relates to this. The danger of making a list here is because someone's going to get left out. And if you want to be specific with your scope, you also want to make sure it's high level enough to cover what work you're planning on doing. My suggestion would be to remove the bolded list, leave the statement that we've got there, and then reference the individual section plans, because that's where we're going into more detail as to exactly what it is each of those goals is going to do. That's where we can specify more specific things for whatever going on. And then as goals are created moving forward, when we expand goals or create new goals, we're still covered. We don't have to change the scope statement.
So now to the second point, Judy mentioned hold on, Dave, just 1 second. do we want to try to change our language to be more SDL, SDLC, SSDLC focused?
I think we do need to include distribution. At least whether or not we include operations is a legitimate question.
I think it's something we will eventually get into. I don't know that it's first task, but I think that there would be benefit there.
Yeah, I would be disappointed if we don't include relatively soon at least something about supply chain. You know, basically, you know, protecting your builds, reproducible builds, distribution, things involving package distribution. Now, you know, at least the dev and the blur between dev and ops. Now, you know, there's a lot of other folks who already cover operational cybersecurity. I don't think we need to cover that so much, but there is an overlap.
Yes, and then I think it potentially add value to talk about finding content around like securing Kubernetes clusters or good references to good operational practices.
Yeah.
But do we need to write that right now? No. Somebody did it better than us. Glenn.
Yeah, I was also wondering as a second point, what is in scope? Is it also the certification platform where we will, or
we did talk about kind of highlighting that people have learned these things. So that probably should be in scope somehow.
Yeah, we're more generally, we want to incentivize learning.
Something along that line. Does that hit what you were hinting at, Glenn?
well, yes, but I was also more, are we also going to provide a platform or build like examination platforms where we actually can
it's in the plan where we're talking about you took the training, you passed the test, you got a certification, where we're going to work with LinkedIn or Indeed or whomever to get that thing highlighted, showcased on your profile, and then try to point hiring companies towards those people that are trained.
Okay. So, but we are indeed going to build like I don't know, an app, a feature to provide this, verify this.
It's proposed, yes.
Okay, cool.
But do we think that should be an item in our scope we want to put in, or we'll wait till that gets hashed out? That's Sal's group 3.
Well, I think it's key important, right? I mean, that proves how well we did the education and training and materials that we created. And so I think it should definitely be in scope, but
Our platform for showcasing certification for learners.
You might put an optional S in parens after platform.
Yeah.
You want at least one? We might have more than one. I mean, even within the Linux Foundation, we have more than one platform, depending on what you want to do.
Yeah. To Jacob's point in the chat, is the scope going to be the thing you point back to later on or determine whether new ideas are in or out of that scope? While this is not like a project charter where we are defining more formally the project and what we're going to be committing to, I think we want to be as descriptive as we can, but as Dave Rousseau mentioned, we want to have flexibility that we can pivot or add new work that directionally falls within this. So we're not going to list out, here's the 27 things we're doing. We're going to point, there'll be some disclaimer at the end that says we're going to point to the plan that we're proposing, that the plan speaks to the items we will be delivering. But I think the scope needs to be a little more up level. It talks about kind of thematically, these are the areas we're doing our work on and how potentially people could participate or contribute to. And again, this isn't final. This is all kind of in flight. So we can always come back to this. We will come back to this in a future call, but we will be taking PRs for specific suggestions. Randall.
I can always proofread this later and submit a PR, right? Because I had to take a call from the office.
You can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this isn't final today. We would, after we're done editing, I will send out a note to the mailing list, and everyone that's been active participants will be asked to vote formally.
Right on.
We're just kind of brainstorming, trying to get this more in a place where external folks can understand what we're doing, and hopefully solicit. We'll be able to recruit more people to help out.
Fair.
Thank you, David. Have a good day.
Would it make sense to have markdown lint on this repo?
Yes.
I'll open a PR for that.
Cool. Thank you. I'm actually was going to bother you later today. I need to upload a Google document into our vulnerability repo.
Absolutely.
Yay. All right. In our last 5 minutes, do we have any other ideas for what might be in or out of scope for our work?
Maybe also, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a summary of what we already have defined in the separate working groups, but what is in scope is also the collaboration with like the schools, universities, to get the education and materials in the right places.
In fact, I'm having a touch of writer's block this morning. Did you have a question or statement, Randall?
No, I have to lower my hand. I can expand on it. I have my tools, as you know.
So some type of generic statement at the end of the scope section saying, here's the specifics of what we're going to be doing. All right, I think we made some good progress and had some good conversations today. Important things we need to get hashed out. So I will ask in everybody's spare time to please review the README, either send your ideas to the list, submit a PR, or prepare them for our next call. And that way we can kind of get this thing polished off. And I'm going to add, now that I'm editing, I'm going to add in a bunch of people's GitHub IDs. So with that, I think we'll adjourn for the day unless there's any other topics people wanted to talk about in the last few minutes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good chat today. Enjoy.
Rob, quick question.
Yes, sir.
For the schedule, I sent you a DM in Slack.